Do you think Agile is not what or how it is advertised? Or is your Agile team structured the way it should be? Or do you feel you could be more productive if it was not for the Agile practices? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then this video is for you. A lot of times you all might have heard about 5 reasons why 47% of the Agile project fail, or 7 reasons why Agile project fails, or top 12 reasons why Agile project fails. Today we are going to talk about the one reason why Agile project fail. Main reason why Agile project fail is the practices of Agile. Remember, the Agile practices are to facilitate the Agile methodology to help us get to the point where we want to be, which is our end goal, like where we want to go. But the practices are not Agile in itself. And from practices, I mean the daily stand up, the sprint plannings, the team retrospectives, PI planning in scaled Agile. Those are the Agile practices or the daily cadences that helps facilitate Agile. Sometimes we get so much focused on that we forget the main reason why our organization started going through Agile transformation in the first place. Why not waterfall? Why not spiral or iterative methodology that was working prior to the 90s, and now we switch to Agile and everyone is going through Agile, so let's jump in the boat and we are also going to do Agile, right? We need to understand some basic concepts of Agile, and once we do understand that, it will make a lot more sense why everyone in the industry is doing Agile. So the problem is the practices of Agile, and we all have been so much focused on it that we lost track of some of the key points, and I'm going to talk about some of the key points in the later slides. If you ask someone, why is your team or your organization doing Agile? You will be shocked by some of the answers. Some of the answers that I got was because everyone is doing it, because we are being told so, because the management said we are going Agile, so we started our Agile team. Just because everyone in the industry is doing Agile, we should start doing Agile too? I would say no, right? Maybe your organization is not built for Agile. Maybe your organization is doing good with the traditional waterfall. Your organization might be, or your team might be efficiently working, delivering successful products. Then why even bother switching to Agile? You only start thinking about transitioning to another methodology when you see some issues or problems in the existing methodology, right? That your team or your organization is implementing, and you see problems and you want to find a solution for it. So if you have already identified a problem with the existing methodology, like for example traditional waterfall in most of the cases, or spiral or iterative, then your organization might be thinking like, okay, let's find a solution for it. Let's transition to a different methodology, something that's working for everyone. And then if we study the industry, we're saying like these days Agile is the answer, because it provides agility, and everyone in the industry is doing it. So let's investigate why everyone is doing it in the industry, why everyone is transforming to Agile in the industry, and is that a good fit for my organization? And if the answer is yes, if it is solving all the problems that your organization is facing today, if you think that would help and you understand that, then make sure you deliver that to your team as well. Make sure your organization, people in your organization knows that why we need it, because of these problems that we are facing today, we need to transition to Agile, because Agile is going to solve that for us, because of the agility that it provides, because of the flexibility that it provides. Answering the why question is really important, because it's going to help with measuring the success of your projects, measuring the success of your teams, and make sure that that message is delivered to the team as well. That's the reason we are transitioning to Agile, and this is what we want to achieve from Agile. Remember, Agile is not an added value. One of the other misconception that people have in the IT industry is Agile produces an added value to the business. No, Agile is not an added value to the business. Agile is the way to get to what the business needs, but it does not provide added value. You have a clear understanding of why your organization needs to go through Agile transformation, and you have conveyed that message to your team. The next biggest question comes up: when? You cannot just come out of a conference and say, hey, tomorrow onwards we are going to be Agile. It's not going to be that easy, right? Yeah, I mean, in some cases, if you are a small organization where you have 20 to 30 people working for you, it's relatively easy, right? You make sure those 20, 30 people are on board with the decision, and then your organization is Agile. But for large organizations where you have 10,000, 20,000, or maybe 30, 40,000 employees working, and there is a set of processes in place which are becoming hurdles from transitioning to Agile, because processes would actually stop agility, because you want to make sure teams are agile, it's flexible, but there are processes in place is going to stop that, right? So you need to make sure you do some changes in your organization. You might need to change the org structure. You might need to work on, or start actually, the cultural change. And most importantly, the mindset change. People in your organization working over there for years with the existing processes, it's going to be really hard to change their mind right away. It's not going to be just one email doing it. You sent an email and from there onward their mind changes. It's really hard sometimes to accept change. It's going to take time to change mindset. Oftentimes we have heard about it, right? But this is not how we do things over here, or this is not how we used to do things over here. This does not work over here. Some of those questions sound familiar? Yes, that's where the mentality change comes in, the mindset change. You need to work on that, and that is going to be the hardest thing in your Agile transformation, to make sure everyone in your organization is accepting change. To do that, you would need to educate everyone, and that will come with time. And not only just with time, but you would also have to show them by example. So that actually leads me to my third and last question: where? Now that we know why we need to go through Agile transformation and when we are going to do it, where to start from? Start small. Preferably a new team. It might work with existing teams as well, but you might have some challenges. Some of the common ways is to start with a new team. If you have a new project coming in, or some enhancements going on, maybe create a new team, build a new team, and then start doing Agile from there. Once that team forms and they go through their Agile transformation, they will be interacting with other teams. They might need some web services from the other teams. They might need some permissions from networking or security. And when they interact with other teams in the Agile way, that impact will trickle down like a domino impact, right? And it would help throughout the organization to accept that Agile change, or the agility, the flexibility to trickle down, and other teams will start noticing it. And then slowly you transition some of the other teams, which means you need to facilitate that impact. You need to facilitate that change. When these teams are interacting with other teams, and the Agile team is doing things certain way, but the other teams which are not agile yet are doing things the traditional way, your job as a C-level executive would be to make sure that that change is trickling down. So you would need to make sure that, to facilitate that change. So you would need to facilitate that change and help the team out with that transition. Because the end goal is, remember, the end goal is transitioning the entire organization. We started from one team, but our goal is to make sure it goes all the way across, right? So you would need to facilitate that change slowly. It might take time. In some cases, it might take years, probably a decade, about 10 years or more, depending on the size of your organization, but you'll have to work it out. And then give these teams, the new teams that you are building, and making sure, helping them out and making sure that they're transitioning to agile and they are accepting change. Empower those teams. Empower them so that they can make their own decisions. Empower them so that they can work together. Empower them so that they can make some changes, organizational changes. I know it's hard to empower a team so they can make it, but the reason I'm saying that is the whole point of this presentation is, or this video that I'm making, is getting unstuck from the agile practices and empowering your team to make their own decisions. What I mean is, yes, agile says that you should have a daily stand-up. Start with that. Start with the standard. After 2 or 3 sprints, ask your team, do they really need the daily stand-up? Are we wasting that 15 minutes of their day? Is it really helping them or not? And if it's not, then why waste their 15 minutes of their day? They could probably do something else during that 15 minutes, right? So yes, daily stand-up are like one of the main or the key cadence in agile sprints, but it's not required. It's optional, depending from team to team. One team might need it, another team might not. Scrum master role, right? One team might need a scrum master, another team might not. So you don't need to impose a scrum master on every team. That would be counterproductive. I've seen during my career that there are teams. The teams are so strong that they can actually protect themselves. They don't need another scrum master. And then what happens? The scrum master is thinking that his role is not needed. So if one of your resources is thinking that his or her role is not needed, what they will start doing, they will start creating tasks for them, which would start becoming impediments for your team. So let the team decide. Like I would say, yes, start with the standard of have a product owner. By the way, I have a point on product owner too, but I'll get to that later. Have a product owner, have a scrum master, have a business analyst, developers and testers. Start with that. Have your schedule your daily stand-ups, sprint plannings, retros, PI plannings if you're doing scaled agile. But then after a couple sprints, I would say 3 sprints, sit with the team and ask them, do you really need a scrum master? Do you really need a daily stand-up? How is your team working together? What do you think if we remove the stand-up meeting from daily? Would that help you or would it not? Remember, there is a retro at the end of every sprint. So at the end of every 3rd sprint, you could probably talk to your team and say, hey, how would your team perform better if we make these changes? Or what do you suggest? If we make some org structural changes for your team. The key point is all these roles would help, but they're not required. They're optional. All these meetings would help, but they're optional. And you have to make sure, does it fit into your organization? Does it work for your organization or your team? Even within your organization, one team might need a scrum master because they don't have that strong of a personality. Another team might not. One team might need daily stand-up because they don't interact with each other that much. Another team might not because they are in meetings all day or they are talking to each other constantly all day long. So they might not need that daily stand-up, right? So let that team decide what their needs are. Let the team decide how they want to perform. Empower the team to let them form their team. Remember, let them form so that they can perform. Thank you. If you like the content of this video, or if you have any questions and would like to participate in discussions, please join our scipiosys community and I would love to answer your questions. Link to the scipiosys community is in the description below. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in another video. Scipiosys!